The planet burned. Cities that had stood for thousands of years turned to glass in seconds. The sky filled with massive black ships, each one bigger than Earth's largest city. Purple energy beams cut through buildings like hot knives through butter. On the surface, millions of aliens ran in terror. They knew what was coming. Everyone in the galaxy knew what happened when the Keith Empire arrived at your world. You had two choices, surrender or die. War Commander Zex stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching another world fall. His 6 eyes glowed with satisfaction. His massive claws clicked against the metal rail as he counted the seconds until victory. "Send the surrender message," he ordered his crew. His voice was cold as space itself. The message was always the same. It was simple. It was final. Main story begins. For 10,000 years, the Keth Empire had ruled the galaxy with an iron fist. They were not the smartest race. They were not the most advanced. But they were the most feared. And fear was the greatest weapon in the universe. Well, Commander Zex knew this better than anyone. He had conquered 500 worlds. He had destroyed entire civilizations. He had never lost a single battle. Other alien races whispered his name in the dark corners of space. Children had nightmares about his ships appearing in their skies. The Keth were perfect killers. They stood 12 feet tall. Their skin was harder than steel. They had 6 arms, each one strong enough to crush bones. Their teeth could bite through metal. But their greatest weapon was not their strength. It was the terror they brought with them. When Keith's ships appeared in a star system, 3 things always happened. First, the local government would try to contact them. Second, they would receive the surrender message. Third, they would give up without firing a single shot. It had worked for 10,000 years. It had worked on 500 different alien races. Some were warriors. Some were scientists. Some were traders. It did not matter. Fear conquered them all. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Kex, his second in command. "The Thorian government has surrendered." "The planet is ours," Zex nodded. Of course they had surrendered. They always did. The Thorians were known across the galaxy as brave fighters. They had fought wars for centuries, but even they could not stand against the fear of the Keth Empire. "How long did it take?" Zex asked. 17 minutes, sir, from arrival to surrender." Zex smiled, showing rows of sharp black teeth. 17 minutes was fast, even for the Keth. Usually it took at least an hour. Sometimes stubborn races took a whole day. But they all surrendered in the end. They always did. The Keth had a simple rule: join the Empire or be destroyed. There was no third option. There had never been a third option, and there never would be. On his personal screen, Zex reviewed the list of conquered worlds. 500 planets, billions of alien lives under Keth control. Each world added more ships to the fleet. Each world provided more soldiers for the army. Each victory made the next one easier. The Keth Empire was unstoppable. Nothing in the universe could challenge them. Nothing made them afraid. But as Zex looked at his screen, something caught his attention. A small red dot blinked at the edge of Keth space. His science officer had marked it as interesting. "What is this?" Zex pointed at the red dot. "A small system, sir," the science officer replied. 3 planets. Only one has life. What kind of life? They call themselves humans, sir. They live on the 3rd planet. They call it Earth. Zex studied the information. Humans were a young race. They had only been in space for a few decades. They had no great weapons, no powerful shields, no massive fleets. "They are sending signals into space, sir," the science officer continued. "Radio waves, television broadcasts. They do not seem to know about the Empire." Zex laughed. It was a harsh sound that made his crew step back in fear. Another young race that thought they were alone in the universe. How wrong they were. "How many humans are there?" Zex asked. "About 8 billion, sir. 8 billion. Zex repeated the number slowly. "That will make a fine addition to our slave worlds." He turned to his crew. "Set course for the human system. It is time to teach these humans about fear." The massive Keth fleet began to move. Hundreds of ships turned toward the small blue planet at the edge of space. War Commander Zex felt the familiar excitement of another easy victory. But as the fleet entered hyperspace, heading toward Earth, none of them knew they were about to encounter something that had never existed in the galaxy before. They were about to meet a species that did not understand the meaning of surrender. Closing hook. The Keth fleet moved through space toward Earth. War Commander Zex expected another quick victory. Another planet full of scared aliens begging for mercy. Another addition to his perfect record. But humans were different. Humans had something no other species in the galaxy possessed. Humans had the strange ability to become more dangerous when they were afraid. And the Keth Empire was about to learn this lesson the hard way. War Commander Zex stared at his tactical display in horror. Ships were arriving from everywhere. Species that the Keth had conquered decades ago were bringing their fleets to fight alongside the humans. The Thorians, who had surrendered in 17 minutes, now brought 300 warships. The Zilans, who had begged for mercy, arrived with 500 vessels. Even the peaceful Mindari had converted their trade ships into weapons of war. "How many ships are out there?" Zex asked his tactical officer. "Over 8,000, sir. And more are arriving every hour." Lieutenant Kex approached his commander carefully. "Sir, they are broadcasting a message. All of them together." The main screen activated. General Martinez appeared, but she was not alone. Behind her stood representatives from over 100 alien species. "All former slaves of the Keth Empire. War Commander Zex," Martinez began. "The galaxy has something to say to you." One by one, alien leaders stepped forward to speak. "You ruled us through fear," said the Thorian admiral. "But humans taught us courage." "You made us slaves," added the Zealand commander. "But humans showed us freedom." "You told us we were weak," declared the Mindari captain. "But humans proved we are strong." Martinez stepped forward again. "The Keth Empire is finished, Zex. Your ships are outnumbered. Your worlds are in rebellion. Your soldiers are afraid. But we offer you something your empire never offered anyone else." "What?" Zex asked. "Choice." The battle began at dawn, but it was not the battle anyone expected. The combined galactic fleet did not attack the Keth ships. Instead, they surrounded them. They blocked every escape route. They cut off all communications with the Keth homeworld, but they did not fire a single shot. "Sir," Zex's weapons officer reported, "they are just waiting." "Waiting for what?" His answer came from the human fleet. A small ship approached the Keth flagship. It carried no weapons. It broadcast a simple message: permission to come aboard for negotiations. Zex could not believe what he was hearing. The humans wanted to talk? After everything that had happened? After all the death and destruction? "It is a trick," Lieutenant Kex warned. "Humans do not forgive. No species forgives what we have done." But War Commander Zex was curious. For the first time in his life, he was facing something he had never encountered before. An enemy offering to negotiate from a position of strength. Grant them permission, he decided. The human shuttle docked with the Keth flagship. General Martinez stepped aboard, accompanied by only 2 guards. She walked through corridors filled with heavily armed Keth warriors who could have killed her instantly. But she showed no fear. Zex met her in his command chamber. The most feared warrior in the galaxy faced the human general who had brought down his empire. "You have come to gloat over your victory?" Zex asked. "No," Martinez replied simply. "I have come to offer you peace." Zex laughed bitterly. "Peace? After what my empire has done? After what I've done? You would offer peace to your greatest enemy?" "Yeah, why?" Martinez was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke with a sadness that surprised the Keth commander. "Because continuing this war will not bring back the children you killed. It will not heal the wounds you caused. It will only create more death, more suffering, more children who will grow up without parents. And because," she continued, "someone has to break the cycle. Someone has to choose mercy over revenge. Someone has to choose hope over hatred. The galaxy has been ruled by fear for 10,000 years. It is time for something different." Zex stared at the human general. Everything he understood about conquest, about power, about the nature of the universe was crumbling around him. "What do you want from us?" he asked finally. "3 things, Martinez replied. "First, the Keth Empire ends today. No more conquests, no more slaves, no more ruling through fear. Second, every species you conquered goes free. They choose their own governments. They live their own lives. Third, the Keth people find a new way to live. Not as conquerors, but as part of the galactic community. And if we refuse?" Martinez gestured toward the view screen, where 8,000 allied ships waited in formation. "Then the galaxy will end the Keth Empire for us, but we would prefer to end it with words instead of weapons." War Commander Zex looked around his command chamber, at the warriors who had followed him for centuries. At the empire he had spent his life building, at the legacy of fear and death that would be his only monument. Then he looked at the human general who offered him something no enemy had ever offered before. A chance to choose a different path. The Keth Empire surrenders, he said, quietly. The words felt strange in his mouth. In 10,000 years, no Keth commander had ever spoken them. But I have one question, Zex continued. Why do you show us mercy? We killed your children. We destroyed your cities. We tried to enslave your species. Martinez smiled sadly. Because that is what humans do. We fight when we must, but when the fighting is over, we try to heal. We try to build. We try to make tomorrow better than today. Because someone taught us long ago that the strongest thing in the universe is not fear. What is it then? Zex asked. Hope. Part 4. Human Nature Revealed. Opening hook. First 30 seconds. War Commander Zex had enough. His fleet was losing ships. His reputation was cracking. Other worlds were starting to rebel. The humans had to be stopped, and Zex knew exactly how to break them. Target their breeding centers, he ordered coldly. Target their young. Target their families. No species can fight when their children are dying. The Keth weapons charged once more. But this time they aimed at human schools, hospitals, and homes. The attack began at sunrise. Keth ships struck cities around the world. But they did not target military bases or government buildings. They targeted places where human families lived, where human children played. The humans were about to show the galaxy what happened when someone threatened their young. Main story begins. Captain Maria Santos was flying her fighter jet back to base when the emergency signal came through her radio. Her home city of Barcelona was under attack, but this was not a military strike. The aliens were hitting residential areas. They were targeting schools and playgrounds. They were killing children. Maria's daughter Sofia attended school in Barcelona. Her 5-year-old daughter who drew pictures of airplanes and wanted to be a pilot like her mother. Control, requesting permission to break from formation, Maria said into her radio. Negative, Captain. Return to base for orders. Maria looked at the smoke rising from her city. She thought of Sofia's bright smile. She thought of all the human children who might be dying right now. Control, I am sorry, Maria said. But some orders cannot be followed. She turned her fighter toward the Keth ships and pushed her engines to maximum speed. Across the world, the same scene played out thousands of times. Human soldiers saw their homes burning. They saw schools destroyed. They saw hospitals targeted, and something changed in the human spirit. Colonel James Wright was in a strategy meeting when news reached him. The Keth had destroyed his son's elementary school. His boy Tommy, who collected toy soldiers and wanted to join the army someday, was missing. Colonel Wright stood up slowly. His fellow officers watched as his face changed. The professional soldier disappeared. What remained was something more primitive, more dangerous. Gentlemen, Wright said quietly, the rules of war have just changed. War Commander Zex watched the human response from his command bridge. He expected the attacks on human families to break their spirit. He expected them to surrender to protect their remaining children. Instead, something else happened. Human military forces abandoned all defensive positions. Every human ship, plane, and soldier turned toward the Keth fleet in a massive coordinated assault. But these were not the same humans who had been fighting before. These humans fought with a fury that made the Keth step back in fear. Captain Maria Santos rammed her fighter jet directly into a Keth destroyer. She did not eject. She rode her plane into the enemy ship, dying in the explosion that took out the alien vessel's main reactor. Her final radio message was simple. For Sofia, Colonel Wright led a ground assault on a crashed Keth ship. He and his men fought through the corridors with a savagery that shocked the alien crew. When Keth warriors tried to surrender, Wright did not accept. This was no longer a war of conquest. This was a war of extinction. Around the world, ordinary humans joined the fight. Fathers who had never held guns picked up weapons. Mothers who had never seen combat flew captured Keth ships. Grandparents who could barely walk became saboteurs and spies. Dr. Helen Park had been a civilian scientist before the war. But when the Keth killed her twin boys in the school attack, she became something else. She used her knowledge of chemistry to create weapons that could eat through Keth armor. She designed viruses that could shut down Keth computer systems. "They want to fight like animals," she said, while building her latest weapon. "Then we will show them what the apex predator of Earth can really do." The Keth had made a critical error. They thought that threatening human children would make humans weaker. Instead, it unlocked something that had been sleeping in human DNA for millions of years, the human protective instinct. On his bridge, War Commander Zex watched his casualty reports climb higher and higher. Human forces were now using tactics that violated every rule of civilized warfare. They used suicide attacks. They tortured captured Keth for information. They showed no mercy to wounded enemies. "Sir," Lieutenant Kex reported nervously, "the humans are broadcasting something across the galaxy." "What now?" Zex asked tiredly. "They are showing footage of dead Keth warriors. They are demonstrating that we can be killed. They are teaching other species how to build weapons that can hurt us." On his view screen, Zex saw human broadcasts reaching every corner of the galaxy. Humans were sharing their military knowledge freely. They were giving away the secrets they had learned about fighting the Keth. "They are telling everyone how to beat us," Zex whispered. But worse news was coming. "Sir, we are receiving reports from across the Empire. Rebellion has broken out on 17 worlds. The species we conquered are using human tactics against our garrison forces." Zex felt his world crumbling around him. The empire that had stood for 10,000 years was falling apart because of one small blue planet. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "the humans are sending us a message. Are they finally surrendering?" "No, sir. They are offering to teach other species how to fight us more effectively." General Martinez appeared on the screen. Behind her were representatives from a dozen different alien species that the Keth had conquered decades ago. "War Commander Zex," Martinez said calmly, "you made a mistake. You killed our children. Now we are going to teach the galaxy something you never learned." "What is that?" Zex asked. "There is something stronger than fear. There is something more powerful than your weapons. There is something that can destroy your empire." "What?" "The love of a parent for their child. And we are all parents now." The screen changed to show Keith's ships burning across the galaxy. Conquered worlds were rising up. The empire was crumbling. The morning sky over New York changed in an instant. What had been blue and clear suddenly turned black. Massive alien ships blotted out the sun. Each ship was 20 miles long. They hung in the air like dark mountains floating in space. Car alarms screamed across the city. People stopped walking and stared up at the sky. Cell phones came out as millions of humans tried to record what they were seeing. On every television, every radio, every computer screen around Earth, the same message appeared. It was written in perfect English, Chinese, Arabic, and every other human language. The message was simple. You will surrender now, or you will die. Main story begins. War Commander Zex stood on his command bridge, looking down at the blue planet below. Everything was going exactly as planned. His fleet had arrived. The humans had seen his ships. Now came the easy part. "Send the full surrender message," he ordered. Across Earth, every communication device delivered the same words. "People of Earth, we are the Keth Empire. We have conquered 500 worlds. We rule this galaxy. You have one choice. Join our empire as slaves, or watch your planet burn. You have 24 hours to decide." Zex smiled. 24 hours was generous. Most species surrendered in minutes after seeing the Keth fleet. The smart ones surrendered immediately. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving responses from the planet." "Good," Zex replied. "Are they begging for mercy yet?" The officer looked confused. "No, sir. They are asking questions." "Questions?" Zex's smile faded. "What kind of questions?" "They want to know who we are, where we come from, why we want their planet. They are asking about our technology, our culture, our history." Zex stared at his officer. In 10,000 years of conquest, no species had ever asked questions. They screamed, they cried, they begged, they surrendered, but they never asked questions. "What else are they saying?" Zex demanded. "Many of them are saying no, sir." "No?" Zex could not believe what he was hearing. "No to what?" "No to surrendering, sir." The bridge fell silent. Every Keth warrior turned to stare at their commander. Zex felt something he had not experienced in centuries. Confusion. On Earth, the reaction was not what the Keth expected. In the United Nations building, world leaders gathered for an emergency meeting. Instead of panic, there was curiosity. "They claim to rule the galaxy," said the American president. "But we have never seen evidence of galactic civilization. They want us to surrender without negotiation," added the Chinese premier. "That seems unreasonable. Who are they to make demands?" asked the European Union representative. "We do not even know if they are telling the truth." Around the world, human governments did something that had never happened in Keth history. They began to plan a response that was not surrender. Military leaders studied the alien ships through telescopes and satellites. Scientists analyzed the electromagnetic signatures of Keth technology. Engineers began designing countermeasures. Philosophers debated whether the aliens had the right to make such demands. Lawyers discussed the legal implications of interstellar conquest. Religious leaders asked if these aliens were a test of human faith. But most importantly, ordinary humans began to do what humans do best. They adapted. "Sir," the Keth communications officer reported again. "The humans are broadcasting something." "Their surrender?" Zex asked hopefully. "No, sir. They are broadcasting questions to us. They want to talk." Zex roared in frustration. His massive claws dug gouges in the metal railing. "I do not want to talk. I want them to surrender." "They are asking why they should surrender to us," the officer continued. "They want proof that we have really conquered other worlds. They are asking about our government structure, our laws, our treatment of conquered species. They want proof." Zex could not comprehend this. "They can see our ships. They can see our weapons." "Yes, sir, but they say that having big ships does not give us the right to rule them." For the first time in his long career, War Commander Zex felt something he had never felt before. Frustration. These humans were not acting like any species he had ever encountered. On his view screen, reports came in from across the galaxy. Other conquered species were watching the situation at Earth. Word was spreading that someone was not immediately surrendering to the Keth Empire. "Sir," Lieutenant Kex approached carefully. "Perhaps we should demonstrate our power, show them what happens to worlds that resist us." Zex nodded slowly. Yes. These humans needed to learn what fear meant. Once they saw Keth weapons in action, they would surrender like all the others. "Target one of their cities," Zex ordered. "Something big enough to make a point, but small enough that they will still have the ability to surrender." "Which city, sir?" Zex studied the planet below. He needed to choose carefully. The attack had to be devastating enough to break human spirit, but not so destructive that there would be no one left to surrender. "There." He pointed to a location on the surface. "That large settlement. Destroy half of it. Leave the other half standing so they can see what will happen to the rest of their planet if they continue to resist." The Keth weapons charged. Energy crackled across the ship's hull. Below on Earth, humans looked up at the sky, still asking questions, still refusing to surrender. Zex felt confident again. This would end the strange human behavior. Once they saw Keth power, they would beg for mercy like every other species in the galaxy. But War Commander Zex was about to learn something that no Keth had ever discovered before. Closing hook, the Keth weapons fired. Energy beams lanced down from space, striking the human city below. Buildings vanished in blasts of purple fire. The demonstration of Keth power was perfect. Zex waited for the surrender message. He waited for the humans to beg for mercy. Instead, something else happened. Something that had never happened in the history of Keth conquest. The humans got angry. And angry humans, as the galaxy was about to learn, were far more dangerous than afraid humans. The city of Mumbai burned. Half the metropolis lay in ruins from the Keth attack. Smoke rose into the sky like black fingers reaching toward the alien ships above. War Commander Zex watched the destruction on his screen and smiled. Finally, the humans would understand. Finally, they would surrender like every other species in the galaxy. But then something happened that made his smile disappear. Instead of surrender broadcasts, human military forces began moving toward the destroyed city. Instead of fear, he heard voices filled with rage on the communication channels. Instead of begging for mercy, the humans were planning their counterattack. "Impossible," Zex whispered. Main story begins. General Sarah Martinez stood in the Pentagon war room, staring at satellite images of Mumbai. Half the city was gone. 12 million people lived there. Now 6 million were dead or missing. But General Martinez was not thinking about surrender. She was thinking about revenge. What do we know about their weapons? She asked her science team. Energy-based, General, replied Dr. Chen. But the power signature suggests they need to recharge between shots. We estimate 15 minutes between major attacks. 15 minutes. Martinez nodded. That gives us a window. Around the world, human military forces were doing something that Keth had never seen before. Instead of running away from the alien ships, they were moving closer. Instead of hiding, they were preparing to attack. On his command bridge, Zex watched human aircraft approaching his ships, small, primitive vessels that could not possibly threaten his mighty fleet. "Sir," reported his weapons officer. "Human aircraft are approaching attack range. Destroy them," Zex ordered casually. Keth weapons fired. Purple beams lanced out at the approaching human planes. Most were destroyed instantly, but some managed to fire their weapons before dying. Human missiles struck the Keth ships. The explosions were tiny compared to Keth weapons. They barely scratched the alien armor. Zex laughed. "Is that the best they can do?" But then his science officer spoke up. "Sir, the human weapons contained scanning devices. They were studying our hull composition during the attack." "Studying us?" Zex's laughter died. "What for?" He got his answer 6 hours later. The second wave of human attacks was different. This time the missiles exploded at specific points on the Keth ships. Points where the armor was thinnest. Points that the humans had identified during their first attack. Several Keth vessels took minor damage. For the first time in 10,000 years, an enemy had actually hurt Keth ships. "How did they know where to hit us?" Zex demanded. "They learned from their first attack, sir," his science officer replied. "They studied our response patterns, our weapon cycles, our armor weak points. They are adapting their tactics." Zex stared at the reports in disbelief. Most species attacked once, failed, and then surrendered. The humans had attacked, failed, learned from their failure, and then attacked again with better tactics. On Earth, human engineers worked around the clock. They studied fragments of Keth technology from damaged ships. They analyzed energy patterns from Keth weapons. They reverse-engineered alien materials. "Their armor is strong but not perfect," reported Dr. Kim from the research lab. "If we hit the same spot multiple times with concentrated fire, we can punch through." "Their weapons overheat after extended use," added Dr. Patel. "We can force them to fire continuously, then attack when they are recharging." "Their ships have blind spots," noted Commander Rodriguez. "Small areas where their sensors cannot track targets effectively." The third wave of human attacks exploited all of these weaknesses. Human pilots flew their planes into Keth blind spots. They fired at the same armor points repeatedly until the metal cracked. They used hit-and-run tactics, attacking when Keth weapons were recharging. For the first time in his career, War Commander Zex watched enemy forces damage his ships and escape to fight again. "Sir," Lieutenant Kex approached nervously, "the humans are using our own tactics against us." "What do you mean?" "They are using fear, sir. They are broadcasting images of their successful attacks to other worlds we have conquered. Some of those worlds are beginning to ask questions about our invincibility." Zex felt something cold in his stomach. It was a feeling he had never experienced before. For the first time in his life, War Commander Zex was beginning to feel afraid. The fourth wave of human attacks was even more sophisticated. Humans had learned to coordinate their assaults. While one group distracted the Keth ships, another group attacked from a different direction. They used electronic warfare to jam Keth communications. They employed stealth technology to approach undetected. Most shocking of all, they captured a small Keith scout ship. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "the humans are broadcasting again." "Their surrender?" Zex asked without much hope. "No, sir. They are showing footage of our captured ship. They are taking it apart, studying it, learning how it works." On screens across Earth, humans watched their scientists dissect alien technology. They saw human engineers building new weapons based on Keth designs. They watched human pilots training in simulators that replicated Keth ship capabilities. But most importantly, they saw that the mighty Keth Empire could be defeated. The fifth wave of human attacks used modified Keth technology. Human weapons now fired energy beams similar to Keth weapons. Human ships were protected by shields based on Keth designs. Human tactics incorporated 10,000 years of Keth military knowledge. Zex watched in horror as human forces destroyed an entire Keth squadron. "Sir," his tactical officer spoke quietly, "we have lost 17 ships. The humans have lost hundreds of aircraft, but they keep building more. They keep learning. They keep getting stronger." Zex slumped in his command chair. This was not how conquest was supposed to work. Enemies were supposed to be afraid. They were supposed to surrender. They were not supposed to learn, adapt, and fight back harder with every battle. "Sir," Lieutenant Kex approached with a disturbing report. "Intelligence indicates that humans become more aggressive when attacked. Their biochemistry actually changes during combat. They release chemicals that make them stronger, faster, and less afraid of death." "That is impossible," Zex protested weakly. "Sir, we have been studying them wrong. We thought they were like other species. But humans are predators, sir. On their world, they were the apex hunters. When we attack them, we are not triggering their surrender instinct. We are triggering their hunting instinct." Closing hook. War Commander Zex stared out at the blue planet below. For 10,000 years, the Keth Empire had used fear as their greatest weapon. It had worked on every species they had ever encountered. But humans were different. Attacking them did not make them afraid. It made them angry. And angry humans were learning to fight back with a skill and determination that terrified even the Keth. Worse still, other conquered worlds were watching. They were seeing that the mighty Keth Empire could bleed. They were beginning to wonder if they could fight back too. For the first time in his life, War Commander Zex was beginning to understand what his victims had felt for 10,000 years. He was beginning to understand fear.